Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
A very busy morning here this Thursday, 7th day of August on O'Connor and Company in your nation's capital. Thanks for joining us. Coming up at 7:35, Congressman Andy Harris will have something to say about Wes Moore threatening to gerrymander him out of a job in Congress. Also, 8:05 brings us KT McFarland, and at 8:35, Alex Pleitsis, former Pentagon official, talk about the shooting at Fort Stewart yesterday. It's Larry O'Connor with the matriarch of the Mom Wars Substack. She's Bethany Mandel. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Have you forgiven me for my?
You got to bring it back up, huh? Just like somebody just got in their car and turned on the radio and they didn't hear it, and you're just going to do it all over again, huh?
Verbal violence, I think you could describe. Well, you know what? If you missed any of my personal attacks on Bethany Mandel, which probably did cross the line, you might want to grab the podcast, sign up and get your podcast of O'Connor and Company. It's available at all podcasts. It's the radio show, but in podcast form. It makes us cooler. Joining us right now is the Republican candidate for lieutenant governor in the Commonwealth of Virginia, John Reid. And John Reid, we have a lot of topics to get to with you. First of all, thank you for joining us. How's the campaign going?
Everything is great all over the state, every single weekend during the week. I'm meeting a lot of great people who are new potential voters for the Republican Party, and that's how we win.
Well, and I've noticed that you and Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears and Jason Miyares, the Attorney General, first of all, you're doing a lot more together. And also I've noticed that you seem to all be taking the fight directly to the Democrats with renewed vigor. Is there a strategy there? I think that the Democrats are trying very hard to paint themselves as moderate, suburban, just practical, want to get things done. I don't think Virginians realize what a leftward lurch this ticket represents.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody had to focus, and I think this summer kind of drew everybody to electioneering 101. What's the choice that voters face? Solid, responsible, conservative Republican leadership that extends the good work that Glenn Youngkin has done for 4 years, or do we go back to the craziness of Ralph Northam with Abigail Spanberger and Ghazala Hashmi leading things? And that focuses Republicans real fast, I think.
I would hope so. And non-Republican voters in Northern Virginia who, well, let's face it, parents want to be notified if their child has any sort of medical concern when they're in school. And we have this latest story now that Fairfax County Public Schools has told Channel 7 that they are investigating about two girls who claim that the school facilitated and even paid for abortions without notifying the parents. And that seems to be the Fairfax County Public School policy, that the parents are not notified if a situation like this arises. You put out a statement, but I'd love you to expand on it. What do you say?
Yeah, look, this is the insanity of the mindset of leadership in Northern Virginia schools, in Loudoun and Fairfax and elsewhere, and it's got to stop. And I would have thought that the Democrat Party, after they lost the governor's mansion 4 years ago because Terry McAuliffe basically said the quiet part out loud, that he doesn't think that parents should be in charge, that they would have recalibrated and said, wow, we got our butts kicked here. People don't like that. We should adjust. But instead, it looks like they've gone underground. And this story is really disturbing. And parents are always supposed to be in charge. They're always supposed to be informed. I don't know what it takes to get that through the minds of the people who are running these school systems. And I've got no problem standing up and saying this is going to be a big issue, and it's something I'm going to talk about every single day between now and Election Day. They're your kids. They don't belong to the state of Virginia. You get to make these decisions, and you should certainly be actively engaged in what your kids are telling the administrators and the teachers and the nurses at school.
So one of the things that I think really troubles me about Democrats these days is, and like Abigail Spanberger, is that they represent – she's not a radical anymore. She represents the turn in the Democratic Party on all sorts of issues. And one that, animates me as a Jew is anti-Semitism. I'm reading in this morning's Jewish Insider that Gabby Dutch, who's one of their reporters, she made multiple requests for an inquiry from Spanberger's campaign asking for a comment about a fellow representative, another Democrat, Sam Russell, who in recent weeks called Zionism evil. And he's not just a nobody in the Virginia state legislature. He is the chair of the House Education Committee in Richmond. This is, a pretty important perch, and for him to be saying this is really troubling. What would you, as if you get this call from Gabby Dutch, which I think you probably will, what's your response to her?
Look, the Democrats have put together a coalition of people who've got big problems with America, big problems with Christianity, big problems with Judaism, big problems with Western civilization. And it's a coalition that isn't going to work because it's going to eat itself up. And they're at this place where they can't diss a member of the coalition. I mean, if you're upset about that, wait till you see the picture of my opponent, Ghazala Hashmi, who's running for lieutenant governor as a Democrat, standing next to the Palestinian flag after the massacre in Israel. And she's basically marching with the pro-Hamas Palestinian folks here in Richmond. I mean, I got a problem with that. If you will stand with these people who are going into the streets, rallying for the terrorists overseas and bringing that same kind of hostility towards Jewish students who are here in America, to me, that's a disqualifier. You should not be running for statewide office. And everybody says, John, don't talk about it. That's too inflammatory. Is it? I don't think so.
I mean,
think
Americans died and were kidnapped on October 7th.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And marching with the flag, and I mean, they're basically saying, oh gosh, what a terrible thing, but let's give those terrorists exactly what they asked for.
Yeah, I think the Democrats have really done a deal that they're going to regret here, and they should recalibrate, and they should stand against barbarism. They should stand with civilization. They should stand with Virginia students, regardless of what their religious background is. I can't believe I've got to talk about that in 2025 in the state of Virginia, that we shouldn't allow Jewish kids to be hassled, abused, and physically intimidated on our college campuses. If you can't lead and say that that's wrong and stand up for the kids, then you shouldn't be in the Senate, and you sure as heck shouldn't be lieutenant governor.
John Reid is running for lieutenant governor on the Republican ticket, and he's our guest. John, a couple of other big items in the news. Everyone talking about the D.C. crime issue. We saw some pretty high-profile violent acts here, and the president is calling for the federalization of the district. This affects Northern Virginia, too. Major crime problems there, specifically Fairfax County, with their Commonwealth's attorney, who basically is allowing criminals to walk free. I saw Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears call for a recall of Steve Descano. What do you think needs to happen here? Is there something that can happen at the state level here if a Commonwealth's attorney is not doing his job?
Well, I think the recall idea is significant. And if I was in elected office and there was a widespread responsible a group of people who said, hey, you're failing at your job, that would snap me out of it real quick. I mean, what else do people need to see other than that video of that little toddler who walks away from her parents, and this guy picks up the toddler and apparently takes her up to the second floor of the mall to do what? Thank God we don't know.
Yeah.
But this guy, if the news reports are right, he had just been let out of jail. He'd been in police custody on a number of occasions, charged with a number of different things. If that doesn't shock you to see a toddler kidnapped on tape, and you don't think that law enforcement and the prosecutors have an obligation to protect us from that kind of villain, I don't know how to help. The people I talk to are very alarmed, and Republicans have got to shine a light on this passive attitude by so many of the Democrats. It's got to stop.
Steve Descano has replaced the jail cell door with a revolving door, and it's become completely unlivable in Fairfax County. And that has nothing to do with being a Republican or a Democrat. It has to do with being a Virginian. John Reid, you're hitting all the right topics, I think. Continue the good work. By the way, the Reid Revolution Tour is ongoing, and you can jump on that tour bus as well. Just go to johnreidforvirginia.com. Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you again, I'm sure.
Larry, Bethany, thank you. I'll see you soon.